All right, guys. So today I have a very special guest with me, Samantha Rose, or short Sam Rose, and she has exited literally a silicone spatula focused brand. Okay, so you guys that say you can't sell silicone spatulas, this entire company was created and sold to a big firm with just spatulas. Okay, so or pretty much just spatulas. Okay. Also, Sam now is a managing partner at Hologram Capital and is running a super cutting edge software called Endless Commerce for brands that she herself she created and had the same struggles that she had. So, welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me, Aaron. It's a pleasure to be here. We have so much overlap in like these little different ways and spaces. So I'm really excited to see where the convo takes us and take it away.
Absolutely. So, when I want to know what drove you to start a kitchenware company, and specifically meaning like spatulas, like get it right, right?
Yeah.
GIR. I've seen big, I've seen them in big booths at the houseware show.
Hmm.
I've seen it in a lot of places. Okay. And
Yeah.
why? Like, why that?
Well, as with so many good things, it just started with me being like really annoyed at a problem and like, wanting to solve it, and then really being stoked about the solution and wanting to share it. So that one specifically was a broken spatula in my kitchen with in a bowl of some kind of batter. I don't even remember. And it broke. And I was like, what the heck? Why is this out of two pieces? Like, why don't they just make these out of one piece? And of course, that became the breaking question for like the entire business that followed, because which is my joke, is the Illuminati of kitchenwares. Like they had not made one piece silicone spatulas to that point. And I was like, okay, well, let me just buy some molding putty and like silicone molding materials and see where this takes me. And one thing led to another. And it was a good product that had an extraordinary amount of earned media around it and just snowballed.
Wow. So so when you say like molding, explain like you made a spatula in your house?
I made a spatula in my house. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes the joke about these spatulas is it's silicone on a stick. So the first prototype was just Sculpey, really. And I wanted to see if I could make this thing out of one piece. So I made Sculpey, and then I bought silicone molding materials on the internet, and I poured that around my Sculpey model. And that became like the silicone mold, and I
And
cut it.
hold on, what is Sculpey? Sculpey sounds like,
Sculpey's
Forky,
like
Toy
it's
Story
like silly
3.
putty or whatever. It's
Okay.
like a molding clay. Molding
Oh,
clay.
I
We'll
got
say
you. I got you.
unbranded molding clay.
So have you seen Toy Story 4? Forky or no?
Yeah, yeah,
Forky,
yeah.
Forky, Sport, whatever.
Quirky.
I feel like Sculpey is like, this like spatula with like eyeballs walking around.
It totally could be. I mean, honestly, Sporky's face was probably made out of Sculpey.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
real meta.
Wow. Okay,
So I
so
made
then you like just shaped it with your hands, or you like how do you? I've never done it, right? So I'm trying to.
Okay, so imagine playing with like clay or silly putty and
Yep.
making the shape of the thing that you want, which
Yep.
for me it was like, here I have one.
Okay.
Basically this. So I make this out of clay, let's
Mm-hmm.
call it. And then I put it in a bucket, basically, and I poured liquid silicone that was air curing on top and all around it. And then what I've got is basically like a brick with a Sculpey spatula inside. I open it up, slice it in half, and get rid of the Sculpey that's inside. And now I've got a mold. Now it's basically like muffin tins, you know? So I've got these two sides of a mold. So then I get other silicone and I pour that inside the mold, and I had it all kind of like, blocked and taped or banded together. And out of that mold came the first of these that was actually made out of silicone
Wow.
with a chopstick inside it to make it stiff. And then from there I thought, okay, like I validated the concept. And that was one of whatever, a dozen of those types of prototypes that I made and played around with, and I was playing with the shape and how long the insert should be and all of that. And eventually got it to a place where I was like, okay, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm gonna make 10 as Christmas presents,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
holiday gift for my friends and
Okay.
family.
Okay.
And then I gut checked that. I'm like, well, if I make 10, I'm gonna kill someone with like my random Amazon.com silicone that I bought. So let me like actually call factories and just see if I can get this made out of real silicone. punchline, which comes up frequently in conversations that I have around this part of my life, is you can't make 10, you can make 10,000. So that started for me the process of, like supply chain management and like figuring out how to make and sell 10,000 of a thing, which has become the guiding experience of the rest of my life.
You had never seen I mean, I don't know if they existed. Like this didn't exist because now they're everywhere. I mean, we sell a bunch of
Now
them,
they're everywhere.
right? Like,
Yeah.
For me, I don't remember a world where these didn't exist.
Well,
But it was.
you're welcome.
So when you went to China, I'm assuming this was China, or you emailed them or whatever.
Yeah, and in fact, I tried to set up a US based supply chain and I got laughed out of the room so many times, more times than I can tell you. Anyway, yes, China.
Yeah, happened to me too, by the way. There's no I couldn't find anything here. It took, like I gave up after several months of just getting literally nowhere. So in China, and these factories it was a novel idea to them. You're like, put a thing in the middle and then put silicone around it. And they had not heard of this. This was brand new, all in China, here, everywhere. Like no one knew about this idea.
This was brand new. I mean, and I had filed a provisional patent for it, which then turned into a utility patent for it. The trick was to figure out, I sort of made this like proprietary blend for what the core was going to made out of, which remains proprietary. And try to figure out how I could make this thing like really durable, but also really heat safe, and use kind of the most reliable heat resistant silicone that was out there and available. So I just like pavement pounded for months, maybe even like a year or more, trying to figure out how to validate this manufacturing process around compression molding, but with a core that was fully encapsulated, but without any of what's called in mold making location pins. So I needed to like float this core inside the compound without it like floating to one end or the other of the surface, as the silicone around it is like vulcanized and liquefied and all of that stuff in the production process. So it was heavy metal chemical engineering nerding out. Like,
wow. And did you ever like travel over there and see the process or?
Oh yeah, multiple times, sometimes multiple times a year. Yeah. And that was the first of what became a pretty big line of different products that we made with similar manufacturing methodologies, and kind of like the design point of view was one piece of it, but I always viewed, our secret sauce, I suppose, as these like manufacturing methodologies that we'd validated. But then it was ripped off very quickly. And I'm glad, because everyone now has these better spatulas. Like my mission's accomplished. I had a problem that I wanted to solve for everyone, and whether or not I was going to be the person making money from the solution, like I'm very glad that everyone has spatulas like this now.
No, it is amazing. And they work great. I mean, it's a great idea and a great concept. And now what about in terms of the patent? So you have a patent for the inside, but what about going, like if you went back in time, is there a way to have patented that idea of like you would be the one person with this kind of product?
Maybe. I mean, and that's to an extent what we were going for. But I think a thing that I learned about IP management in general is that a patent is only as good as your ability or desire to defend it. And I'm not a terribly litigious person. Like I want to make friends and meet people. I don't want to spend my day in court. I'm not a lawyer. And so for all of the good that a even more robust IP portfolio might have done for us, and for all of that good, to really put that IP to work, or the filings to work, I would have had to just sue a lot of people. And that's not really what I wanted to do with my day. So I can't remember the number of patents that have my name on them. I should probably gut check that, but it's maybe, I don't know, more than a dozen and less than 50. And it's very, it's a proud moment. And inventing something is like really cool and exciting. And I've have design patents and utility patents, and some that are highly, highly technical in nature around like sensing coffee bean freshness and, real like abstract algorithmic, but at the end of the day, it's like a joyful piece of paper and an acknowledgement of the hard work and differentiation. And after that, it's the right to sue someone. And that was not ever terribly exciting for me.
Yeah, lawsuits are not fun. What
And
about, I
it's
mean,
expensive.
what about the again, I don't understand and I haven't read any of these patents, but Amazon has this like neutral patent evaluation thing for utility patents.
Mhm.
And did you ever try that
You mean in the like the brand registry?
yeah.
I'll also clarify, for a lot of the patents that I filed, we prosecuted them, which means just to like go through the process of getting the patent to be issued.
Mhm.
And then they were issued. For the spatula. I didn't have the money to get through the end of the process. So it was patent pending for years.
Oh.
And I just didn't have the bankroll to like keep going rounds and rounds and rounds with it. So that particular thing is not patented, but a bunch of other stuff is, which feels great.
Nice.
Anyway, the world can have the spatula.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I mean, I'll tell you, our biggest product and biggest seller is a milk frother, right? In Zulai.
Yeah, yeah.
And the milk frother actually was invented by a guy named Gary Lane, and he never patented it. And so everyone has a milk frother now, and like we're where we are in a way, like you know what I mean? It was like he created a baby, and you just don't, you don't like nothing that's not protected, but the baby is free, and the invention goes out in the world, and it grows much faster, I think, than if it would have been protected. So in a way, it's a marvelous gift. For everyone who uses a like product. So
Yeah. Gary sounds like a great guy.
yeah. I met him once.
Did
I
you?
was, and he was like, yeah, I've made all these guys on Amazon so rich or whatever, and I was like, oh, like we had the top one. It's a little embarrassing, but then I was like, hey, that's me, and then we spoke or whatnot. So
Yeah, your buddies.
yeah. So anyway, okay, so could you explain to me now? Okay, you invented this thing, you made the 10,000. Was that your first order, 10,000?
Yeah.
Wow. That's big because
12,000.
it's a unique thing, right? I mean, if it's already made, you can do less, but 10,000 for a new one seems, I mean, you have to, I guess.
Was a
Right?
lot. Yeah. So I put a little bit of my own savings into it, and then I ran a Kickstarter campaign, and we made 1,000 per color of 12 different colors, because I thought, what better way? This is a commercially questionable strategy, but I felt with one hero product, the thing that I needed to do was make it feel like more. And a way to make it feel like more was to tell a color story and let that be kind of at the center of the brand ethos. So we bought 12,000 no, 13,000, because we also had a special edition only on Kickstarter green, Kickstarter color.
Wow.
And so I did my 12 colors of the rainbow, and then plus Kickstarter green, and that was 13,000 units.
And how much was it? Like your cost?
Like the production order, it was tens of thousands of dollars. Like I want to say maybe $30,000 or $40,000.
So like $2 and change per spatula-ish, maybe three?
It was about three.
Three. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there you go. Boom, a little test, and then Kickstarter. And then what year was this?
That was 2012 was the when we launched the Kickstarter, and I've been working on it for a couple of years before that.
Nice. So it's 2012. You have product now. You're on Kickstarter. How does it go? How was the reaction of people? Like
insane to me. It was
Yeah.
also not $1 million campaign. It was like a $50,000 campaign. But to me, to have people that weren't like my grandma buying this was like, a totally mind-blowing, exciting experience. And then the snowball started to happen, which I attribute to two things in the zeitgeist at that moment in time. One was I was just a decently good storyteller and liked to get out there, and it was a novel thing. There were no other all silicone spatulas, so it was just like a surprise. And in that regard, and I use this word carefully. It was like mildly disruptive, not like truly disruptive, but it was mildly disruptive. Like the industry was like, "Oh, what?" And that created a vibe of its own from a competitive basis. There were a lot of like catch-ups, but then also we would go to a trade show and I just had like a booth full of people like gawking at it all. And I had no context. I've never been to the food trade show before, kitchenware's trade show. So I was like, whoa, I guess we really did something cool. What's next? And then the other thing in the zeitgeist was just Kickstarter itself and the crowdfunded model of early distribution and of fundraising and all of that. So between those two things, we got the benefit of a lot of earned media and everything from like Wall Street Journal business section covers to the New York Magazine gift guide. And then I had like chefs and stores calling. I still to this day don't know how my cell phone number got out there, but I got like a lot of cold calls from chefs. Hey, can I buy 10 for my restaurant? Can I buy 100 for my chain? And so that there was a very exciting scramble after that to figure out what would be next for the business. And that's my podcast is called The Best Day Ever, or it's called Best Day Ever. Those are sorts of best day ever problems, like the scaling problem of you launch something and the fear is crickets. But if it's not crickets, like, oh my gosh, that's another sort of chaos. And so just catching up to the demand was a completely explosive experience. What are we going to design next? How are we going to order more? How are we going to finance this whole operation? Oh my gosh, I need more. I can't do it by myself. I need help. What's my tech stack? All of these things just start to bubble up immediately. And I'm a decently handy physical product designer, but I'm also a good systems designer. So I just started to build systems like to meet this moment in scale. And that became kind of like thematic for the next couple of phases of businesses that I've started and the things that I'm kind of pursuing to help other founders.
Amazing. Amazing. Love it. Now, I see the website now. Get it right, and there are a ridiculous amount of products. I mean, there's like everything. Like it's even me. I mean, we have a lot of SKUs. But when I look at the website, I just go like, there's so much stuff, right? So when you're going to like, what's next? Like, obviously, you've sold, you exited, those, all the things that happened. But how did you decide what to do next? As you're saying, like that question came, and then
Well, I think early days. So I've got this one kind of hero product and a manufacturing method that seems pretty rad and seems like I can apply it to other things. And I was trying to optimize in the next phase of growth for a couple of things. By the way, by the time I sold the business, we had, I want to say around 650 SKUs or so. But that was 55 or 60 hero products and then all of the kind of constituent colors. Sure. And all of that. And then several thousand bundles. So I had two kind of like operational pains to address in the next phase of like growth and brand strategy. One was unit economics and customer acquisition. I didn't do a whole lot of online advertising because I was selling a $12 spatula. And so I couldn't afford an ad for the one $12 spatula. So part of my strategy was, okay, well, what friends come with the spatula? Like, what else can I bundle this with to make the cart value higher so that I can afford to offer free shipping, or so that I can afford my lifetime guarantee, or so that I can afford over time to like run a digital ad to do some demand generation and access, customers that I never met before. And so that was a big piece of the growth of the product strategy, and the growth strategy was finding these complementary things that would kind of over time, and they did build out a full line of kitchen utensils and gadgets that were complementary to each other, but they could also be bundled in a way that was accretive and help me make these other moves commercially that I wanted to make. There's a puppy. And then another aspect of it was, well, what will work in retail? Because absent the ability and the unit economics for digital advertising on day one, my march into retail and to being multi-channel was immediate. Again, like hashtag figure out your systems to make that all possible. So as I did that, the next part of the product and the growth strategy was, well, what will retailers want? And what do those conversations look like? How can I learn from the retailers that I am in what their white spaces are? And those are really fun and exciting conversations to be able to walk into a kitchenware store and say, what could I make for you that would resolve a need for you, really plugs into one of the core, I don't know, this is a core value somewhere. Maybe it's for me, maybe it's for the businesses that I run, but we're not making products for no one. We're not making products based on an MBA thesis. We're making products that deliver value. And to figure that out, to understand how you deliver value, you have to talk to the customers. And so that's so much more applicable and easy to characterize in the world of software development that I live in now. Everybody knows that like you need to talk to your customers, but in product development land, like that was a big part of our secret sauce was, hey, Target, what's up? What do you need?
Who was the first retailer that like gave you guys a shot?
The first retailer, and thank you, was JB Prince in New York on, I want to say 30 something street, 31st Street. And we'd been invited to the New York Magazine gift guide. And in order to be featured in the gift guide, you had to be in a physical retailer in New York City.
What?
This is like a month in. I'm like, the campaign's still hot. Like, and I ran the campaign in like, late summer, early fall. And then we headed right into the holiday season. The gift guides start calling and they're like, well, what retailers are you? And I'm like, my website that I just built on Magento last week. And they were like, well, we really want to feature you, but we cannot if you're not in a physical retailer. So I stuck a bunch of product in a backpack and I marched through the city knocking on small stores until somebody said yes. And JB Prince took a chance on us, and I am forever grateful.
Wow.
It really set the stage for everything that came next.
So you knocked on their door, and what was your pitch?
My pitch was, I've got this cool new product. I'm about to get some exciting press for it. I mean, I just told them the truth. I'm about to get some exciting press. I need to be in a physical retailer. I've gotten some great early feedback from chefs. Do you think the chefs in your store would be interested? And so, but by the way, the rest of the scene setting for this story, which I have never told, is super great because JB Prince is on like, I don't know, the third or fourth floor of a building in Lower Midtown in Manhattan. And you kind of just, if you know, it's not, they're not a big storefront. It's not shiny and glossy, but it's like where the most amazing New York City chefs buy their tools. And so I'm like standing in this old lobby with a bunch of other people in chef's whites, and then like me with my backpack, and I go up, and then it's a little store, but it's like, on the fourth floor or something. And there's an office attached to it in the back, and there's all the buyers. And I just walked up to the counter and I said, can I talk to a buyer? I barely had the vocabulary for this, by the way. It's not that the industry's terribly black box, but like to a practical teenager who's in my early 20s, I was just sort of like, who will buy my beautiful roses? Anyway, they introduced me to this lovely buyer, and I gave her the pitch. I've got this product. It comes in all these colors. I probably offered to put it on consignment, or so. I was like, I'll do anything. You can have it for free. And but she placed a purchase order for like a few $100s that day and wrote me a check. And I gave her spatulas. And it was like an incredible moment.
Wow. That's awesome. And then you go back, you say, hey, I'm in this store. Publish me now. And then
go to the presses. Yeah. And in fact, I don't, in moments like that, you can't signal that you're weak. Can't be like, oh, well, we're not anywhere, but let me figure it out. So that was a crazy 36 hours of like, this is the bar. I'm like, okay, that's not a terribly high bar, but also like, I can't just make that up. I have to go do it. And then, so the next day was like going to do it. And then the next morning was like, I did it. It was, very snappy.
That's awesome. And so then how did the sales go? So now you get published, like, what's the trajectory, right? From where you started and you're adding products and then until exit, like, what does that path look like?
Well, really long and really short. honestly. We were the little engine that could. And I think we relied on the things that were, and I recommend this to any like entrepreneur, the things that you're good at. I mean, be good at them. I was really good at making relationships and like hitting the pavement. And so I allowed myself to be good at that. And I just let that drive a lot of the business's growth at the early stage. And so I walked around to stores and then I found the names of buyers and then I sent lots of cold emails and I sent lots of free samples out. And this is really before like influencer marketing was even a thing. By the time we were done, it was really a thing. But at the beginning, it was just like, let me build my little newsletter list and like build a community and just do the things that are like in my comfort zone because I can. And then the things that I ended up needing help with, I just started asking for help with. And so one store after another, eventually to Target, and one online channel after another. So, Amazon and eventually Faire.com, but that Faire.com didn't exist until years later. And my first website was on Magento because Shopify was so young at the time that they didn't have the right parent-child variant relationships that I needed for like my, crazy SKU mix. Just build little pieces at a time. And eventually we had what I really love about that business and in businesses that we support. This is like our perspective at Endless Commerce on how to support businesses. And then also the businesses that I've invested in at Hologram is like channel distribution is everything. Because all of those mom and pop stores across the nation, they were our bread and butter. And they stabilized the business. So then we could take riskier moves, like other inventive moves, starting a coffee grinder business while having this like really nice, stable revenue stream underneath it all. And I saw danger in over-indexing into any one channel, whether that's a big retail channel like Walmart or a digital channel like your own website. The more distributed you are, the more you can bear the risk of a channel either like turning off one day because you lose the account or changing the rules on you. Like if you're advertising on Meta pre iOS 14 and then Apple changes the rules and then you can't afford to acquire your customers anymore. Like if you're too reliant on that path to customer acquisition, it's very, very dangerous. So that was my kind of crazy path, was like, how diverse can we be? How distributed can we be? And how quickly do I have to build tools for my own use beyond just the products themselves in order to facilitate that strategy?
Love it. Love it. So then that Meta update hit you guys. Like how did you you didn't end up sending spatulas on Meta, or you figure out how to actually sell spatulas on Meta?
We never did. We never did. Okay. We were, I think I spent, I'm not recommending this, by the way. This is just my lived experience. I think I spent $1,500 period on digital ads the entire time.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't actually at all part of your strategy. I mean, obviously you tested it, but
I just saw I saw people suffer from it. But no, it wasn't a part of our strategy because we couldn't afford it because, our contribution margin dollars weren't enough. And if I'd had to do it over, I might have started, I don't know, more up market or with something like a skillet instead of a spatula. But that's a more like growth engineered approach to like product founding, and I was starting with something that I just loved, and I was like, the math mattered less to me at the time as a very early stage founder. Now I think I don't know if I know better is the way that I would characterize it, but certainly I have awareness to that sort of thing where it's like, okay, you might be really passionate about this, but are you going to be able to turn that passion into a business? Like, is there a business there? And I had started in this kind of like halcyon moment of like, it's just a project. It's not even a business.
I mean, it was an inventor. You were really a true full-fledged bona fide inventor. And I'm part of like an inventors association board, actually.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the amount of inventors that do stuff that never get a product to market is a lot. that even patents this. And so getting an invention to actually get into people's hands is a massive accomplishment that most never achieve. Like even people that described inventors that never get a product to market. So you moved fast and quick, and I think that was so beautiful. Like if you knew better, I mean, you had a successful exit, you sold a lot of spatulas, you changed the entire planet really in terms of spatulas. So that's a big deal. You know, it's good you didn't know any better, I think.
Yeah, I did not. I definitely did not know any better. And that, I think, not knowing or not caring is not the most at all, not the most important part of the entrepreneurial mentality mix, but a certain amount of not caring,
Yes.
I think, is required.
Absolutely.
And if you don't know, that helps because you don't realize that you're doing something that's just like crazy. And yeah, I individually really benefited from just being a good builder of all sorts of things. So despite the fact that I probably could have started with something with, I don't know, like more powerful unit economics or like a bigger, better go-to-market strategy or whatever, I just cobbled together all the systems as fast as I could as I went. And that really allowed us to kind of survive the transition from, and I think this is a hard inventor transition. I've got an idea and a story. I've got an idea, a story, and a system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like two transitions in amongst three different spaces that is not necessarily the same person mentality. The inventor mentality is not necessarily the boring, repeatable, scaling growth operations mentality. That's really boring for a lot of creative inventors. They get to that stage of it and they're like, oh, I don't do this now. Like, I don't want to pound the pavement and go embarrass myself in front of a bunch of different buyers who say no. I mean, 99% of the people I ever talked to said no. That's
I mean, that is the way. That is the way.
Yeah. So anyway, that mentality shift, I think being able to shift gears, backwards and forwards, right? Because then you get your first product distributed. What's next? You got to go back into the insane creative space of like building something cool. And then the like mostly fun but slightly more arduous path of commercialization, and then the truly arduous path of scale.
Yep.
And then back. And then you got to be able to do all three at once, which I think is just I'm blessed to find joy in all three of those mental states simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. And now, how much could you share in terms of like how many spatulas did you sell, or like total revenue, or yearly revenue, or any figures? Like, what's the scale, or either at the peak or right before selling, or how many people were impacted?
Ungodly millions of spatulas. I'm very glad that they're environmentally friendly because like untold millions and millions and millions of spatulas. That's the other funny thing is like to survive as a business, we just had to sell a lot. Scale was our answer because it was so inexpensive. And it was the last few years, it was an 8-figure business. And it was an 8-figure business when I sold it. And I don't know how many figures it is now, but
yeah. Okay. Well, it's, hey, the spatulas have grown legs and have been going around the world. So
yeah, they ran away with it.
And for the acquisition, how did that occur? Did you get contacted? Did you reach out? Like, did you go to market or someone approached you? How was that process?
No, I was so happy running that business. I was not looking for an acquisition, but a mutual friend introduced me to Emmett at Pattern Brands, and he was the founder of Gin Lane. And I was like, I knew who Emmett was, and I was such a fan of Gin Lane's work, and I was aware that Pattern was kind of like building this house of brands strategy, and we were their first acquisition. So Z, thank you, Z, introduced me to Emmett. Hey, Emmett. And one thing led to another, and I felt like they were going to be such a good acquisition fit for us as we got to know each other, because the thing that I felt like I could never access or do was that like real digital success piece. Shopify was 20 or 25% of our channel mix by the time we sold the business. And I thought, well, you know, someone who really knows like the world of meta advertising could probably pour lighter fluid on this place and just really, you know, take it to the races. And that was very exciting for me as someone who at the core just really wanted to like see the brand succeed and storytell and see the products in people's kitchens and all of that stuff. So that was a really good fit for what I was hoping to see for the brand. And that was more important to me than kind of any other aspect of it. Like we weren't running process to sell. We just found cool people.
Said, boom. It was the right one. That's amazing. And so what was the mix? So 25% Shopify, what's kind of the stack of channels?
We had another 25% or so on Amazon, and like other marketplaces, maybe if it's Amazon plus all other marketplaces, 35%. And then the remainder of the business was wholesale. And that would vary year to year because, you know, some years we were in Target and we had a really big end cap rollout. And then some years their purchase orders were smaller. There were some national specialty chains that we went into and out of over time. But in general, that was like the real ballast in the ship of the business was what were those wholesale channels.
And this is a thing that I've kind of been told, and you know, I primarily am living in the Amazon space, but you know, we're working to get into more and more retailers now. And I've heard a lot that, you know, products life cycle in the stores generally are like 1 to 4 years, right? And then they get off and you need to like continually like replace, because on Amazon, you could kind of have one SKU and then maybe do small adjustments and you can have it. I mean, we've had products we've had the number one lemon squeezer since 2016 from then till now, right? So like, and it's just, the product hasn't changed. We've added colors and we've done but like, that's unheard of, like in a store. You'll never have a SKU that like sits there for like 9 years, as far as I've been told. So
yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know that I have sort of the absolute guidance on this. I think that that's half true. I think that there are evergreen SKUs that stores just want to have because customers love them. And a lot of gear stuff was like that. Like we had years and years and years of things in stores. There were elements that trended. Certain colors would trend, or we would introduce certain colors and stores would try them out for a season and then swap them back. Seasonality to colors too. You know, red was evergreen, ironically. But of course, like the holiday season for us was always a big spike. So there's evergreen products that retailers will just want in because they know that they have the customer awareness and everyday utility to keep bringing people back. And then, there's newness. A lot of what drove Gear's business when I was managing it was just like continuous new product introductions. And I mean, every 4 or 5 times a year, we would come out with new products. And some of those would spike in retailers and then kind of like fizzle back. And then we would replace them with other things. And there's an ebb and a flow to all of it. So I agree with you. I also think that for certain products and certain retailers, there is nevertheless kind of like a through line of just like these nicely continuous, you know, these products that people always want all the time.
Nice. Wonderful. So then, okay. So you sold that, you've made coffee grinders, you did like software, like tell me about kind of your big focus right now and how you're helping entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So all of those problems that I just described, and probably like 10,000 other ones, we solved with tools that we built for ourselves, like basically software. And the software could be as simple as a series of connected spreadsheets and like really smart formulas or API calls into the spreadsheets. But we built a system to scale for ourselves. After I sold Gear, I started, I guess in retrospect, I mean, it's an agency, sort of a consultancy around product design, supply chain management, and fulfillment. And that business is called Manifest. And I thought, okay, my journey was hard. I have the tools and the know-how. Let me help other people do it. And so we sort of like, you know, sold our time and energy and helped people bring cool stuff into the world. And as we did that, we continued to improve the software that we platformed for ourselves to make it all tick. And that software is Endless Commerce. And when you put it all together, it kind of starts to look like this thing called an ERP, which as an early stage founder, I had no idea what an ERP was. But I kept thinking, I need one system to rule them all. And eventually I figured out that those things are called ERPs, enterprise resource planning, and they help manage the product lifecycle from start to finish, sometimes as early as like, purchase ordering or manufacturing, and as late stage as, well, returns, which is really, but sales. And so I stepped back at one point, I think it was I want to say it was in 2019 or 2020. And I thought, other people need to use this system that we've built for ourselves. And we spent then the subsequent couple of years validating it with a lot of our agency clients. And now we've rolled it out for everybody. And one way to characterize it is it's an ERP without accounting. There's so many acronyms that go into this stuff, though, that again, like I had no idea what any of these acronyms were at the beginning. I just knew these things that I was doing. So I was managing my inventory in a spreadsheet. Turns out there's tools for that. They're called inventory management systems. That's an IMS. And then the same thing would happen for orders. And of course, like most people's default order management system tends to be their primary like direct to consumer store. It could be, or your Amazon store if you're an Amazon centric business. And so that's an OMS. And then we needed to manage our warehouse because we were shipping for ourselves. Well, that's a WMS. And you start to there's a PIM, a product information management. This is like the catalog where I'm sticking all of the critical information about my stuff. Like what color is this? How much does it weigh? What size is the box that it comes in? What size is it when it's naked by itself? How many do I need to order at a time? How many colors do I offer it in? The list goes on and on and on, like 150 dimensions of data around this object just for starters. And that's before you get into the nuances like, well, where am I selling it? And what's my product description on Amazon? What's my product description on Target.com? What's my product description for my own Shopify site? On and on and on. That's a PIM. So you string all these things together and you're like IMS, OMS, WMS, PIM. And eventually you're like, wait, it's an ERP and you're just in acronym soup. At the end of the day, what we've built is a platform that helps people manage all of that nonsense in an easy and fun way and grow faster because their stuff's centralized in one place. So now when the next mom and pop shop comes knocking, or the next kind of regional grocery chain wants to put you in their store, instead of having to ask 7 people for all of the different information that store is going to need to load into their system to allow you to make money with them, it's like an easy button. And that I'm really excited about. Amazing, like the easy button for sales and commerce.
And so I'm checking out the site right now, and one, it seems pretty affordable. It says like 500 to 3,000 is kind of like your average sort of customer, at least today or for when the website was made. And I know, when you talk to, let's say, you guys like NetSuite or there's other ERPs, it's typically more like minimum is 50 grand a year. Usually it's more 100 grand a year is like minimum, with 300 grand implementation fee kind of stuff. So seems like it's and also another thing, I saw Food 52. That's a huge company. They're using they're using Endless Commerce, right?
Yeah. We've built, we built deep. So it can support businesses as large as Food 52's. But to your point about pricing, and again, this is going back to like, sometimes I think about my younger self and I'm like, what does she need?
Right.
I'll make her life easier. Or any of the founders that I'm like mentoring today, I'm like, what do you need? And everyone's like, well, I need this centralized system, but all that's out there for me are these legacy ERPs, and they're really expensive, and it's going to take 6 months to roll them out. And that for me is a big part of the unfairness of it all. To get to be big enough to afford those things, you got to survive, but surviving is hell. So pricing in the way that we are and focusing on brands with as little as 5 million in revenue or even less, with a tool that like can help them get to the 5 or the 10 or the 50 or the 500 million in revenue, those are who I'm building. Those people are who I'm building for. You shouldn't have to pay $100,000 a year to organize yourself in something better than a spreadsheet. You really shouldn't. But and if
Amen.
you're amazing in spreadsheets, by the way, they can take you all the way there. Like if you're an Excel power user, no one will ever age out of Excel. I have so much respect for it. But to the extent that you need a unified system with integrity around your data and a source of truth for everyone to go, party in, basically, it shouldn't be unaffordable, because if it's unaffordable, then amazing businesses will stop growing, and they'll go out of business, and that'd be sad for all of us. And so that pricing strategy that we have is very much oriented toward get in at a fair price, make life easier, and you will grow to be bigger. And I believe in that strategy, because I think that we will help the businesses that we serve at that level stick around for longer.
Beautiful. That's awesome. And so, and in terms of the finance piece, so I guess, is that like coming soon, or you just decided, hey, stick with finance? Like, what do you recommend people use? Let's say if someone starts off, they're on QuickBooks, like stay on QuickBooks and move the kind of the other part over.
Yeah. And so to your point, like a lot of legacy ERPs, they ingest the accounting part of your organization too. Like it becomes your general ledger. And the sad thing about that is that most middle market size business bookkeepers are like, accounting's not broken. They're happy in QuickBooks. The system is built. It's only as good as the data that you put in it, but QuickBooks can scale. Xero can scale. FreshBooks can scale. Like, these accounting systems are not the problem. It's everything else that's the mess. And so my product strategy was to say, okay, I accept that accounting is not broken. And in fact, I celebrate that. Let's fix what is broken, and let's integrate really well with the part that's not broken, which is people's general ledger. And over time, like, will we build into general ledger? I assume maybe, but I'd love for now just to integrate well and not break what's not broken for brands. Like, this is already hard enough. And now you're telling me, like, or, the hypothetical conversation is like, I need a platform like this because I'm in an operational nightmare. And you're telling me that to get out of the nightmare, I have to unwind my accounting system. Like,
Right.
oh my God. So I'm like, just let them have it, and I believe that'll be a pretty viable strategy for us for the next, 5 years or so.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. And then what about like hologram brands? Are you actively working on that as well? That's acquisitions? Are you doing acquisitions as part of a different firm? Like, tell me a little.
Yeah. Hologram's a different business. And we're really focused on special situations for brands in the consumer space, which could be from, my kind of core experience and expertise, home, housewares, kitchenwares, but then expanding farther into the home with baby and sports and personal care, and then eventually CPG.
And how is that? How is this funded? Like these acquisitions? Who's you working with how is that? How's it funded?
Well, that's the real trick, isn't it? Every deal is unique. So sometimes we're doing deals as SPVs. I have basically a syndicate of investors that have invested alongside me. Sometimes we are looking at one of our operating companies and saying, hey, we can invest off the balance sheet of this company because there's enough of, and I'm going to use a big corporate word, synergy there. And so it really is, it's really deal to deal. But this is another way of, I think, recognizing what for me has become a very personal and core mission to help founders who are like brave enough to take the risk on entrepreneurship and making products. And so I can help them with services over at Manifest, and I can help them with software at Endless, and I can help them with capital at Hologram. And depending on where the pain is and the type of help you need, I'm basically just volunteering that I'm here to help, and like, for it, whether I meet you, whichever of those avenues I meet you through as a founder, I'm kind of bringing the full picture of understanding all of the different sides of the commerce equation to the table. So primarily we're talking to brands from $5 to $50 million in GMV that are usually in some sort of working capital situation, or they're over levered, or they were anticipating growth that didn't come, and they need some kind of capital restructuring and some kind of operational help to kind of come to the table. And I've met some incredible brands and incredible founders, and it's a really fun part of the job.
Nice. And so you do like a minority help kind of deal, or you're more majority ownership, or you're buying out entirely? Like what's or are you just all of the above?
All of the above.
Okay.
Any of the above, whether someone needs a working capital loan or someone needs a full out acquisition, depending on who the other counterparties are involved in the transaction, and also like what the cap table looks like, and also what the founders want out of the situation. We're pretty flexible. And I think, one of the things that's always really top of mind for me as I'm talking to founders is like, I don't want to take your thing, but if I can help you reach the next stage of it, then great. Like if I can be a part of the story for you, whether that's as an advisor or as someone who's just like jumping into the fray with you, I'm totally up for it. And that flexibility has allowed us to work with some, really interesting brands and founders and transactions.
Okay, and how many deals have you done there with this?
I can't share the exact number, but it's more than 5 and less than 20.
Okay, good. That's great. That's excellent.
Maybe I can't share the right. I don't know. More than
But
5
that's
and less.
fine. I mean, that range that's a good range. Listen,
Yeah.
we're in a similar. Well, actually, yeah. Never mind. I won't say mine. Won't get into mine. So we'll go on. I'll go on
You
your
want to,
podcast,
and then
and then
you're
you
like,
can ask
wait,
me about all my stuff, and I'll make sure I have everything ready.
deal.
But okay, so this is all like really cool. I love that, your story is, start it, do it, help other people, and it's like it's growth, right? I mean, none of these businesses exist without people, and
Mm-mm.
it's great to have somebody that knows stuff doing work. I guess that's kind of, I don't know. I need some help with getting into some stores.
Oh,
Some
we
point we'll
should
maybe talk
talk.
about it, because I literally, like, you seem like the wholesale like hustler. You know these places, you know the people, and I have so many products that get it right doesn't have, and maybe you might
Yeah.
be able to help with some intros, because that would be just amazing for me.
Well, we should do we can do this live. I'll do it with you live. Like
For real?
you come to me for sure. Yeah, we can record if you're willing to share. I'm totally willing to share. Like my secret sauce is, eventually it'll be a book, but in the meantime, talking is the best way I can get it all out there into the world. Why don't we do another session and we'll talk through live the things that you want to do, like what your objectives are, what the strategy behind it is, maybe a little bit. Maybe we can spitball strategy on the fly if it's not all kind of like there and dialed yet. And then, yeah, we'll just like kick around some different tactics for engaging with whatever channels you're trying to open up into.
I think it'll be great. Maybe we do like a master class, and then we'll
Yeah.
behind some sort of something. Because I don't know, it's gonna be a lot of data. We'll see. I definitely want to do it though, for sure. I'll have
All
my
right.
team, and we'll get on a call on that. But otherwise, I really appreciate your time and sharing
Thank
your
you.
story, and hope we got some nuggets that hadn't been shared before, which is awesome. So
Yeah, I hope this is valuable to the folks listening, and I'm excited for the masterclass, and also anyone listening. Like, if you want to come build in public with me, let's freaking go.
let's do it, guys.
Awesome.
Samantha Rose, find her on LinkedIn. Where should people find you? I mean, I just know LinkedIn because I saw you there, but.
Yeah, LinkedIn's great. I'm real friendly on there. On X, I'm at Sorry Robots, although I don't post much anymore. And then my website's endlesscommerce.com.
Awesome. All right, guys.
Cool. Thank
Thank you so
you.
much. All right, have a good one.
Cheers. Bye.